Welcome everybody to codezing.org. Today we're going to do a level 1 project called Variable Variables. You can find it at codezing.org/variables, or we can just head over to the website. If you go to codezing.org, and this is a level 1 project, Variable Variables. And so we're going to start looking at different types of inputs that you can tell the computer, so you can tell Python and see how Python evaluates those, what it thinks of those, how it interacts with those different types of variables. If you don't already have Python installed, you can follow the Get Python links and watch the videos and get it installed on your computer. Let's just see what we can do. So I had already typed some stuff in here, so we'll do how are you doing. What does it do? It says you didn't enter a number. It checked and it wasn't a number. I entered how are you doing, and that's a string. And strings are combinations of characters that are not numbers. And then try to do a number. Let's take in some numbers. It says you entered a number. Here's the integer form. It's rounded to the nearest whole number. And the float form, which you can see has this decimal at the end. It's not rounded. I checked if it was less than 100, and it was false. So a Boolean variable can be either true or false. And our number is equal to or greater than 100. So let's try another 88.88. Let's see what it does here. So you can see it entered a number, and the integer form of 88.88 is just 88. So you can see it didn't round it, it just chopped off the decimals. So an integer just chops the decimals off. It doesn't try to round or anything. And I guess it says it's rounded, but it's not actually rounding, it's just chopping off the decimals. The float is exactly what we entered. It keeps the decimals, and then it checked if our number was less than 100, and this time it was, so it came back true. A little bit more to read about variables, but let's look at the code and see what we can do here. So if you click on the view code, we can just copy this and paste it into our Spider editor. And this will just be a way for us to interact with the code in a much easier format using they call it an IDE, an Integrated Development Environment. And we chose Spider, which is another open source software program that comes with the Anaconda installation if you go to the Get Python, or you can download it separately if you want. So let's take a look here at our code. So the first thing we're going to do is just run it, see what it does. So just enter anything you want, a number or text, just like the website. Checking to see if you entered a number. You didn't enter a number. You entered that, which is a string. And then it says try to enter a number. Rerun the program to play again. Alright, so let's take a look here. So the first line is an input, and we're just requesting, this is the part that first printed out, enter anything you want, a number or text. So it displays this bit of text, this string, to our console here, and then whatever we input is going to be assigned to a variable that I named variable. So that will be our variable. You can name the variable anything you want. I just picked variable. Other weird thing, this /n just puts in a new line. So you can see it didn't print /n, but it did put our response on a new line. So that's what the /n is. You can enclose text in single or double quotes, either one, but you can't mix or match. So it can't be like that. That'll be an error. See if we run it, we get an error. So you can mix or match. What do we have down below? So once we receive our variable from the user, it's going to do the evaluation part, and there's a lot of print statements. So print statement just displays stuff to the screen. So you can see it as checking to see if you entered a number, right? That's what it printed to the screen here. We also have this try and except, and you can see that everything within the try and except is indented 1 tab's worth. So 4 spaces or 1 tab. And so what it's going to do is going to try to run this code, and if it can't, it's going to print this. And the main thing that it's going to try to do is take our variable that we entered and convert it into a float. And if it can't do that, then it's going to do the except. You did not enter a number. So it's going to try to convert it to a number. If this fails, then it'll say you did not enter a number. And you can see if we did not have the try and except code, let's just try variable equals float variable. So if I run this now and I enter some text, you can see we just get an error, value error. I could not convert string to float, and that's true. You can't convert the word text into a number, and that's where it's failing. So it's trying to do that, and if that doesn't work, if we get an error, it'll just skip the rest of this code and then go straight down to the accept and run the accept code. So try and accept is a very common way to kind of deal with user input that's unexpected or that will cause errors, and a way to keep your code from not just crashing, because you don't want your user to just get an error. That's not fun and not very useful for the user. So let's just step through what it's going to try to do here. So it's checking to see if you entered a number. It's going to actually try to convert it to a number. These are just spaces. So if we enter a number, you can see it's just putting a space here, right? It's just putting a space here. So checking to see if you entered a number, and then we have a space, which is this. You entered a number. Here is the integer form, right? And so we're getting that here. You entered a number. Here's the integer form with the colon, and then it put in our variable. And the way that we did that is we put in these curly braces, right? And then we have our new line, and then our next sentence. It is rounded, and this starts on the next sentence, on the next line. And at the end of this text, we have this call labeled .format, and it's going to put the integer value in those curly braces. So .format allows you to put variables inside the text string that you want to print out, and it will just take whichever item you put first. So we only have one. We have the integer form of variable, and it drops that right in the curly braces, where the curly braces are. If you had multiple curly braces in your text string, you can just separate by comma more variables, and it'll drop them one after another into the curly braces. So it displays the integer form as we saw, and says that that's rounded to the nearest whole number. Another space, and then here's the float form. You can see we have the curly braces again, our new line indicator there, and then .format at the end, and you can see this is going to be the float version. So here we had the integer version, int, with the parentheses here. So int and then the variable, and this one is going to be the float version of the variable. Got another space, and now it's going to test to see if the number was less than 100. And so we are going to print out this Boolean test. So Python is going to say, is the variable less than 100? And you can see what it prints out here is false. So it didn't print out this. It didn't print out variable is less than 100. And the reason that is it's not in these quotes. So if there's quotes, it's just going to print whatever is written in between. If you wanted to print this out, it's actually going to evaluate, is the variable less than 100, and it's going to print the result of that, which is false. It's going to print another line, and then we have an if and an else statement. So if the variable is less than 100, do the indented block here. Else, meaning if the variable is not less than 100, print this piece. So you can see our number was greater than 100. So it says, I checked if your number was less than 100. The Boolean result was false. Right? The Boolean result was false. And then it's going to print, so your number is equal or greater than 100. And that's what it printed out. And then just a little note here. Here's just a comment, mostly, that's displayed to the user. Boolean variables can be either true or false. And they're very important in programming. And you can see that the reason they're important is because these if and else statements rely on Boolean variables, right? It's going to say if, and then it's looking for whether this is true or false. If it's true, it'll run this code, and if it's false, it will run the else code. So Boolean variables are very important to coding. And then at the bottom, we have the case where the top part failed. The only reason the top part would fail is on this, right? It tries to convert it to a float, and that doesn't happen. And so what's the case where it can't convert it to a number? Is that it's a string. Right? So it says you entered. We have the brackets. It's going to put the variable in there, right? Format variable. And then it's going to say that that's a string. And then it's going to give you more instructions. Try to enter a number next, and then rerun the program to play again. So lots of printing here. Obviously, you can change all of this text. You can have it check for more things or try to convert it in different ways and print out the results of any tests or changing that you want to do. But hopefully this gives you a little bit of insight into how code can be written, what Boolean variables are, what a float versus an int versus a string are. If you have any questions, you can post them to the comments on the video or email me at the website info@codezig.org. We'll try to answer those. If you come up with a cool piece of code that you've written, feel free to email that as well, and we can post it to the site so other people can learn about all the cool stuff that you're working on. So all right, well, have fun.